Long before the gods whispered their names into the ears of sleeping mortals, there was a fire that could not be tamed, a force that could not be bound, a spirit that refused to bow. This fire had a name. It was called Aries. Not just a constellation scattered across the night sky, not just a symbol drawn in the dust of ancient temples, but a living frequency, a primal scream of existence itself. Aries was the first breath of creation, the spark that ignited worlds, the warrior soul that dared to say yes when all of existence hung in the silence of before. Some call it the ram, others whisper it as the god of war. But those who truly know, those whose souls remember the ancient codes, they understand that Aries is something far more sacred than mythology ever captured. Aries is the part of you that refuses to disappear, the voice inside that rises when everything tells you to submit, the rage that transforms into righteousness, the passion that becomes purpose, the raw, unfiltered will to exist when forces far greater than you demand your silence. This is not just a story about the stars. This is a story about you, about the warrior energy that lives in your blood, in your bones, in the deepest chamber of your heart where courage is born. Have you ever felt that fire, that inexplicable urge to stand up, to speak out, to fight for something even when the odds are impossible? Have you ever wondered why the world seems designed to crush that spirit, to tame that flame, to make you smaller, quieter, more obedient? If you have felt this, then you are carrying the Aries frequency, and it is time you remembered why they tried so hard to make you forget. This is the full story of Aries, the warrior soul they tried to silence. This is your awakening. Let us begin where all things begin, in the realm before form, in the cosmic womb where energies dance and destinies take shape. Long before the ancient Greeks carved their myths into marble, before the Babylonians mapped the heavens, there was a consciousness that emerged at the very edge of creation. This consciousness did not ask permission. It did not wait for approval. It simply exploded into being with such force, such certainty, such absolute conviction that the universe itself had no choice but to make room. The ancients called this force Aries in Greece, Mars in Rome. But these were only shadows, only attempts to capture something far older, far wilder, far more primordial than any single culture could contain. This was the archetype of the warrior, but not the warrior as we have been taught, not the mindless soldier, not the brutal aggressor, not the violent destroyer. No, this was the spiritual warrior, the sacred masculine, the divine force of initiation and action. Aries represented the moment when potential becomes reality, when thought becomes deed, when spirit descends into matter and announces its presence with fire and fury. In the beginning, Aries was revered, honored, celebrated as the necessary force that breaks through stagnation and births new worlds. It was understood that without this energy, nothing would ever begin. Without the courage to take the first step, no journey would unfold. Without the willingness to face fear, no evolution would occur. The warrior spirit of Aries was not about destruction. It was about destruction of the old to make way for the new. It was the sacred fire that burns away what no longer serves, so that fresh life can emerge from the ashes. The story of the Golden Ram is one of the oldest tales we have, whispered through generations, encoded in the stars themselves. A ram of pure gold, born from the union of Poseidon and the nymph Theophany, gifted with flight, blessed with speech, sent on a mission of rescue. This was no ordinary creature. This was a divine manifestation of the Aries principle: courage in action, intervention when it matters most. The ram rescued Phrixus, a child marked for sacrifice, carrying him across impossible distances to safety. But the journey demanded a price. Hel, Phrixus's sister, fell from the ram's back and gave her name to the sea below. The ram spoke to the boy it saved, telling him what must be done. It offered itself in sacrifice, willingly, knowingly, completing the cycle of transformation. The golden fleece that remained became the most sought-after treasure in all of mythology, representing something so valuable, so powerful, that heroes would risk everything to claim it. But what was this fleece really? What did it symbolize that made it worth such devotion, such danger, such sacrifice? It was the spiritual essence of Aries itself, the divine fire of courage, the golden frequency of initiated action, the sacred power to begin again no matter what has been lost. It was the reminder that true strength is not about never falling. It is about rising every single time, about offering yourself to the transformation, about becoming the ram who flies into impossible situations because someone needs to be saved, and you are the one willing to answer the call. This is the deeper truth they do not want you to know. Aries is not about aggression. Aries is about answering, but something happened. Somewhere in the rivers of time, the story changed. The energy shifted. The sacred warrior became the shameful soldier. The divine masculine became the toxic destroyer. The fire of Aries, once honored as the spark of creation, began to be feared, suppressed, demonized, and deliberately silenced. In the ancient Greek myths, Ares the god was not beloved. Unlike Athena, who represented strategic warfare and civilized battle, Ares represented raw force, untamed passion, the chaos of conflict. He was mocked by the other gods, humiliated, rejected even by his own parents, Zeus and Hera. When he was wounded in battle, Zeus told him that he was the most hated of all the gods, that if he had been born to any other father, he would have been cast into the depths beneath the Titans. Even in love, Ares was trapped. His affair with Aphrodite, the goddess of love, was exposed and ridiculed. Hephaestus, the blacksmith god, caught them in an unbreakable net and displayed them to the Olympians for mockery. The god of war, humiliated. The warrior spirit, shamed. This was not accidental. This was the beginning of a pattern that would repeat across cultures and centuries. The suppression of the sacred masculine, the demonization of raw power, the fear of those who refuse to be controlled. Aries' energy, by its very nature, does not follow. It leads. It initiates. It acts on instinct and inner knowing rather than external command. And to structures of control, to systems that demand obedience, to hierarchies built on submission, this energy is dangerous. So it had to be reframed. The warrior became the warmonger. Courage became recklessness. Passion became aggression. Independence became selfishness. The fire of Aries was painted as something dark, something to be ashamed of, something to be suppressed at all costs. And the suppression worked. For thousands of years, the true essence of Aries, the spiritual warrior, the sacred initiator, the divine masculine in its highest form, was buried beneath layers of conditioning, fear, and control. Boys were taught not to cry, not to feel, not to express the fullness of their inner fire. Girls were taught that this energy was not theirs to claim at all. We were all taught to be smaller, quieter, more acceptable, to wait for permission, to seek approval, to fear our own power. The warrior soul was silenced, not because it was wrong, but because it was right. Right in its refusal to submit, right in its insistence on truth, right in its willingness to stand alone if necessary. And that kind of rightness threatens every lie, every manipulation, every system built on keeping souls small and spirits tamed. But here is what they did not count on. Here is what they could never fully destroy. The Aries frequency cannot be killed. It can be suppressed, buried, forgotten, shamed into hiding, but it cannot be extinguished. Because it is not just an idea or a myth or a distant star. It is the very pulse of existence itself. It is the heartbeat of creation that refuses to stop beating. It is the eternal yes in the face of 1,000 no's. And now, in this time, in this moment, something is shifting. The warrior soul is remembering. You are remembering. There are signs everywhere if you know where to look. Have you noticed the restlessness? The sense that something deep within you is stirring, waking up, demanding to be expressed? Have you felt the anger that is not really anger but sacred rage at injustice, at lies, at the silencing of truth? Have you experienced the sudden clarity that comes when you realize you've been playing small, holding back, dimming your light to make others comfortable? These are not signs of something wrong with you. These are signs of Aries awakening within you. The warrior soul is rising, and it is calling you back to your truth, to your power, to the fire that you are always meant to carry. The Aries energy does not ask if you are ready. It simply begins. It takes the first step, even when the path is unclear. It speaks even when the voice shakes. It stands even when standing feels impossible. Because that is what warriors do, not because they have no fear, but because they have something stronger than fear. They have purpose. Aries teaches us that we are not here to be perfect. We are here to be real. We are not here to wait until we feel worthy. We are here to claim our worth by daring to exist fully, loudly, unapologetically. We are not here to fit into boxes designed by others. We are here to break those boxes and show the world what freedom looks like. This is the lesson they try to silence, that you, yes you, carry within you the same fire that lit the first stars, that you have the right to take up space, to make noise, to demand better, to fight for what matters, that your courage is not a flaw, it is your birthright, that your passion is not too much, it is exactly what this world needs. In the sacred traditions, Aries marks the beginning, the spring equinox, the moment when light conquers darkness and life bursts forth with unstoppable vitality. It is the sign of new beginnings, of fresh starts, of the eternal return. And that is what is happening now, within you, within all of us who carry this frequency. We are beginning again. We are starting the journey that fear once stopped. We are answering the call that conditioning taught us to ignore. And when the Aries soul awakens, when the warrior within stands up and says, enough, no more hiding, no more shrinking, no more silence, the whole universe shifts to make way. Because this is the energy that moves mountains, that parts seas, that breaks chains and opens doors. This is the frequency of initiation, and once it is activated, there is no going back to sleep. You might be asking, how do I know if this is my energy? How do I know if the Aries soul lives within me? The answer is simple. If you are still reading this, if something inside you is resonating, vibrating, saying yes, then you already know. Aries souls are not passive. They do not watch from the sidelines. They are the ones who feel everything intensely, who cannot stay quiet when something is wrong, who would rather burn out than fade away. They are the ones who have been called too much, too intense, too passionate, too aggressive, when all they were being was themselves. They are the ones who have learned to apologize for their fire, to dim their light, to walk on eggshells around those who cannot handle their truth. But you are not born to be handled. You are born to be free. You are not born to make others comfortable with your smallness. You are born to make them uncomfortable with your greatness. You are not born to ask permission. You are born to give yourself permission. This is what it means to embody the Aries frequency, to live from that place of initiated action, of fearless authenticity, of unapologetic existence, to stop waiting for the world to approve of you and start approving of yourself, to stop asking if you are allowed to be powerful and start claiming the power that has always been yours. It is not easy. The conditioning runs deep. The voices that told you to be less, to hold back, to stay small, they do not disappear overnight. There will be moments when you doubt, when you question, when the old patterns try to pull you back into silence. But every time you choose courage over comfort, every time you speak your truth, even when your voice shakes, every time you take action on what your soul is calling you toward, you are feeding the fire, you are strengthening the warrior, you are becoming more fully who you were always meant to be. And here is the beautiful secret they never told you. When you embody your Aries energy, when you live as the warrior soul, you do not just transform your own life, you give permission to everyone around you to do the same. Your courage becomes contagious. Your fire lights other fires. Your refusal to be silenced breaks the silence for others who were afraid to speak. This is the true power of Aries. It does not just lead itself, it leads the way for all who come after. It is the pioneer, the trailblazer, the one who goes first into unknown territory and says, "It is safe here, you can follow, you can be free too." The warrior soul is not about fighting others. It is about fighting for others, for the truth, for justice, for the voiceless, for the forgotten, for the parts of ourselves and our world that have been suppressed for too long. This is sacred combat. This is holy fire. This is the divine masculine in its purest form, not dominating but liberating, not controlling but empowering, not destroying but creating space for new life. In the spiritual teachings, Aries is associated with the head, the crown, the seat of consciousness and will. It governs the mind's ability to make decisions, to choose a direction, to commit to a path. When this energy is blocked, we experience confusion, indecision, paralysis. We overthink, we second guess, we wait for signs that never come. But when this energy is flowing, when the Aries frequency is activated, we know, we simply know what must be done, and we do it. There is a clarity that cuts through all the noise, a certainty that rises from deep within, a voice that speaks with authority because it is the voice of your soul, and your soul knows the way. This is what the suppression was really about. They did not want you to trust that inner knowing. They did not want you to act on your own authority. They wanted you to wait for permission, to seek external validation, to look outside yourself for answers that can only be found within. But the warrior soul does not wait. It listens to that inner voice and moves. It trusts the fire that burns in the center of its being. It knows that sometimes the only way forward is to take the leap before you can see where you will land. This is faith in action. This is courage made manifest. This is the Aries way. As we move deeper into this time of awakening, as more and more souls remember who they truly are, the Aries energy will become increasingly important. We are being called to be brave, to be bold, to be willing to stand for something even when it costs us everything. The world does not need more followers. It needs more leaders. Not leaders who dominate, but leaders who inspire. Not leaders who control, but leaders who liberate. Not leaders who demand submission, but leaders who call forth the greatness in others. This is the leadership of Aries. It leads by example, by going first, by being willing to take the risks that others fear. And in doing so, it shows what is possible. It proves that the fire within us is stronger than any force trying to extinguish it. So what does this mean for you? Right now, in this moment, in this life? It means that everything you have been holding back is ready to be released. Every dream you have been afraid to pursue, every truth you have been afraid to speak, every version of yourself you have been afraid to become, they are all waiting on the other side of your courage. The warrior soul within you is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to be brave. It is not asking you to have all the answers. It is asking you to take the first step. It is not asking you to wait until you feel ready. It is asking you to begin anyway, because that is how transformation happens, not through waiting, but through action, not through permission, but through decision, not through someday, but through now. And if you are afraid, good. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is the compass pointing toward your growth. The Aries soul does not seek to eliminate fear. It seeks to act in spite of fear, to walk through it, to transmute it into fuel for the journey ahead. This is the alchemy of the warrior, turning fear into courage, pain into power, wounds into wisdom. Every battle you have fought, every challenge you have faced, every time you have been knocked down and gotten back up, you are training, you are preparing, you are becoming the warrior you were always meant to be. And now it is time to stop training and start living. It is time to stop preparing and start doing. It is time to stop waiting and start being. The Aries frequency is not about someday. It is about today. It is about this moment, this choice, this breath. It is about deciding right here, right now, that you will no longer betray yourself to belong, that you will no longer dim your light to fit in, that you will no longer silence your truth to keep the peace. The peace that requires your silence is not real peace. It is submission disguised as harmony, and the warrior soul knows the difference. True peace comes from alignment, from integrity, from living in accordance with your deepest values and highest truth. And sometimes getting to that peace requires going through conflict, discomfort, confrontation. The Aries energy does not shy away from that. It walks straight toward it, knowing that on the other side of that fire is freedom. As you step into this energy, as you begin to embody the warrior soul more fully, you may notice that relationships shift. Some people will not understand. Some will resist. Some will try to pull you back into the old patterns, the old roles, the old version of you that was easier to control. This is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. This is a sign that you are doing something right. True transformation always disturbs the status quo. It has to, because the status quo is often built on everyone agreeing to stay small, to not rock the boat, to maintain the illusion of harmony at the expense of authenticity. But you were not born to maintain illusions. You were born to shatter them, and as you do, you will find your true tribe. The ones who celebrate your fire instead of fearing it. The ones who are inspired by your courage instead of threatened by it. The ones who are walking their own warrior path and recognize a fellow traveler when they meet one. These are your people. These are the ones who will stand with you, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. Not because you have it all figured out, but because you are willing to figure it out as you go. Not because you never fall, but because you always get back up. And together, you will create something new. A new way of being, a new paradigm, a new world built on authenticity instead of pretense, on courage instead of fear, on truth instead of lies. This is the vision that lives in the heart of every Aries soul. Not destruction for its own sake, but destruction of the old to birth the new. Not war for the sake of violence, but sacred combat against everything that keeps us from being free. The warrior knows that some things must fall so that others can rise. Some chapters must end so that new ones can begin. Some versions of ourselves must die so that truer versions can be born. This is the cycle of Aries, death and rebirth, ending and beginning, the eternal return to the fire that forges us into who we are meant to be. And now, as we come to the close of this journey through the story of Aries, take a moment to feel what is alive in you. What is the fire within you asking for? What is the warrior soul longing to express? What is the one thing you have been afraid to do, to say, to become? That is your invitation. That is your call. That is the Aries frequency speaking directly to your heart, saying, it is time. You do not need to wait for permission. You do not need to have it all figured out. You do not need to be fearless. You just need to begin. Take the first step. Speak the first word. Make the first move. And trust that the fire within you knows the way, has always known the way, and will guide you home to the truth of who you are. You are not too much. You have never been too much. You are exactly the right amount of fire for the darkness you came here to illuminate. You are the warrior soul they tried to silence, and your voice is needed now more than ever. So rise, speak, act, be. Be the ram that flies into impossible situations. Be the fire that cannot be tamed. Be the warrior that refuses to surrender. Be the beginning that this world is waiting for. The story of Aries is not a story of the past. It is a story being written right now in this moment through you. And the universe is watching, waiting, holding space for what you will create when you finally, fully, fearlessly step into the power that has always been yours. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. The warrior soul is awake, and it is calling your name. Until we meet again, walk boldly, love fiercely, fight for what matters, and never, ever let anyone convince you that your fire is anything less than sacred. The world needs your flame. Now go and let it burn.